Friends, welcome back to Mostly Fictional Tales. I am your host, Rathgar. Our guest, a retired theater professor, Bob Jensen, invites us into his world, a world where the theater stage and untamed wilderness collide. From creating magic moments in the spotlight to navigating nature's wonders, Bob's life is a masterpiece painted with vivid experiences. His story will leave you inspired and captivated. I know I am.
Hi, Ken. Thanks for having me today. This is going to be a wild adventure, I'm sure.
You know what? I promise to make it interesting. I promise to make it interesting, Bob. And you know me. When something needs to be kind of punched up, that's my ballywick. That's what I do. That's part of the ballyhoo that you are a part of today.
Well, I was once told by the students that I was most likely to use a metaphor of all the people they knew. So I'll try to create as much confusion through bad metaphor as I can today.
I certainly hope I'm listening close because you know me, I love a bad metaphor. So welcome to the show.
Want to see what curveballs you throw my way?
You're saying your body is ready. Well, no, that's
Yes.
not what you said, but I did. Recently, Bob, you have returned from an epic adventure. I think I need to sit back here, just to let you take the floor, and you tell me what's on your mind. I want to hear about the Narrows. I want to hear all about Zion National Park and Utah and all of that.
Well, Zion, as a lot of people know, is a beautiful place that you can explore in lots of different ways. I've seen videos of people who say you can experience it in 15 minutes by driving through it, but that's not been my experience. I've been there 4 times, and each time peel back more of a layer of the wilderness that's there. Um, I'm really blessed that I have a couple travel companions for the last 6 years who have done trips in national parks with me, and we've tried before to do the Narrows, and we were shut down because of the flow of the river, the Virgin River. Sometimes it's too dangerous to go into it. And as some people know about the Narrows, you're essentially hiking up a river. And there's a lot to think about because it's the season of flash floods. So we had rain the day before, we had rain the day after. A couple of years ago, as I said, we were prevented from going. So it's always trying to figure out nature and how to prepare well, and then to be ready to give up your plan. So
Hmm.
we got up early in the morning and headed to the Narrows, and that began this wonderful adventure for us.
A little curious about the Narrows. Is the hiking path that is that famous the Narrows that takes you just right down along the riverbed, and like you said, in many places there's not any place for you to stand on the left or the right bank, and in some places you're having to use a pole to figure out where you're going and whether or not there's a place to stand right in front of you.
Yeah,
But my question is that hiking path, is that a one-way path, or do you have hikers approaching you from your pathway, going the opposite direction, or is it
so
set up
on
by the Park Service not to just to make people go one way?
so there's two ways to experience the Narrows. One is in and out, and that's what most people do,
Hmm.
and it doesn't require a permit. So you're hiking anywhere from a mile to 4.5 miles upriver. The second way is to get a permit and go from what they call top down, which I think is about 18 miles, and usually involves people camping, so they're taking gear with them. Because of the rain that happened the day before, there were no permits for people to go from top to bottom. So the only people we saw were those immediately ahead of us. There was a small group that went as far as we did. And then we would see people returning on that in and out first
Okay.
choice.
I
Right.
just
The
now
more
pulled up in a couple of maps here. Let's pop over here and maybe we can get a useful visual aid.
All right. So now if you go to maps.
That may be. Oh, I see what you're talking about, Bob. I see
Yeah.
what you're talking about.
So you got to blow this up, blow this up, blow this up, and then the keep coming, blow, blow. If you can go up once more, and if you look, the river
Oh,
flows.
I see the river right here.
That's
Here.
where one starts. absolutely.
All
So
right.
let's go. Actually, let's go further up, further
Okay.
up, and what
All
we
right.
come to is the last shuttle stop. Do you see where
I
there's
see shuttle
well,
stop,
now this is the
and
entry right here. You
there's the
come to
shuttle.
the Temple of Sinawa, and then one takes the river trail, which is just a nice little walk, and eventually it comes up to the river. If you follow this, the name
That's
on
the
that is
line,
River.
I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's actually a paved trail that people take.
And then you head this way on foot all the way up this river. This is what has caused the narrows, right?
Right. So in between those two forks is where we ended up. We turned around essentially because
Ah.
it was going neck high, and we thought we didn't have
Oh.
anything more to prove. So
Well, that is certainly
we
the
watched
case.
we watched somebody go underwater, so that was part of
Yeah, yeah. I
the
don't think.
turnaround decision. But
Yeah,
you can
kind of
see
like
it's
right
really
around Elephant Temple and Imlay temples, where you end up needing to
turnaround.
turn around. While you were on that trip, I had wanted to make some fake treasure maps to share with you, but I was not quite confident that you were going to see it. This particular piece that it made me think you may have seen something exactly like this. How close did Midjourney get to the experience that you had with this image?
I think what I think the scale is there, but the fact it's a slot canyon means it's there's actually one area called Wall Street that we went through, and that's where the walls are so close to each other that you really experience the slot canyon experience. You know, you
Wow.
get a much more of a sense of how the river was carved by nature.
Yeah, you
I'm
know.
not saying I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this, but this
Yeah,
looks like a great opening based on human
yeah,
scale.
yeah,
Imagine instead the wall that we're seeing through to see them is almost on top of them. That's
yeah.
how tight it
In
becomes.
order
But
for the.
you know, I don't want you to feel you've got to create the exact
No,
facsimile
no,
of
it
it.
was
That
part of my amusement because I was going for treasure maps, and then this was like one of the side. When I generate a set of images with Midjourney, I get four to choose from, and depending upon how much, there's a setting that's called chaos, which allows it to give a lot of freedom as to early on in its generation process as to what it's going to change what words into what. And in some of these, it lost the map aspect altogether, but it has these small figures down in the corner, just for a sense of scale. And I thought that the textures of the rock and the weathering made it look like it was from. This would never
yeah,
be anywhere where you would see this is fake, but
yeah.
but
So
the
this
flavor,
is I mean the sandstone is correct. The fact that there's weeping rock is correct.
yeah.
It's just it was bluer and grayer than this, but don't worry about it. I
Ooh.
mean that's not.
And there might
I think
actually be other places along the way. And again, it was given a lot of freedom, so maybe it decided it wanted more sandstone in it,
yeah,
kind of
and
thing.
it is a almost entirely sandstone experience. That's how it was carved by the river in such a dramatic fashion because the sandstone gave way.
So you're hiking up the river, and there had been some rain, just in the week, the day prior.
Well, first of all, going into the river was amazing. We had the right equipment, and I think anytime it's about preparedness. You don't go into something knowing nothing about it. We've seen people do that on our different adventures at times, and I think those people regret not being prepared. So this preparedness was renting the right equipment. So it was a pair of waterproof socks, specially designed boots to wear, and then to complete what they called the summer gear, because it was still warm enough at Zion National Park in September, to rent the pole to go with us because we needed that for balance, given the fact that it's river rock and it's slick and it's rounded edges. And because the water is moving, you're not seeing the bottom. So that stick really becomes a critical part of balance. So we had that. And so we felt well prepared entering the river. We got there early enough in the morning so there wasn't a big crowd. We could follow a few people ahead of us. We weren't following 100 people ahead of us, as sometimes happens in that river. So we could figure out where to navigate based on watching someone ahead of us and what they were doing. And I've got a feeling that they were also watching people ahead of them. except for those that left at 6 o'clock. They were the trailblazers in effect. And the river is kind of unpredictable for somebody new to it. So it was
It's
really helpful information to see what other people were doing. And the rangers want to protect us. So we checked in with the rangers, we checked in with the rental company, we got their advice. They told us how far they thought we should go. We told them what our goal was. They thought we should modify that because, as we found out, the watershed is 30 miles away. So it might not be raining in Zion National Park, but it could be raining up at the watershed. So
Yeah.
all is to say, this is about just being prepared. And,
Yeah.
I'm fortunate, again, there are two guys with me, Don Carlson, Fullerton College alum, and my brother-in-law, John. We've done this 5 or 6 times, going out to the national parks together. So we do our homework. And so the right gear helped us. Everything was spectacular. Even as within the first half mile, we're up to chest high. So that was an amazing surprise. But equally important was realizing, hey, these socks are keeping us pretty warm. We're not miserable. The water temperature is pleasant. Let's keep going on. And so we had I don't know, 3 or 4 hour experience where we'd come around a turn and the internal monologue is, wow.
Yeah.
And so, we'd pause, debating whether to take pictures or not. All those kinds of things made it so special every moment.
That
And
thing
then for
that
me,
you
because
said right there, that internal monologue, I have felt that only in one other place, and that was Carlsbad Caverns down in New Mexico. And I think that's the same urge. Is that, do I stop here and take a photo, or do I walk another 10 feet and take another great photo? Or
yeah, I've been in lots of situations where that urge to take a picture has to be tempered by a real commitment to being in the moment. And not
yeah,
just feeling like you're recording the moments. We're not
yeah,
coming in with a video camera and doing the whole thing. So for me, and the other issue for me is balance. So a lot of the time I was figuring out how not to fall. I fell twice. I went underwater twice.
no, okay.
I was not as graceful as the other people around me. And
You seem to be in one piece still, so hey,
yeah.
I think that worked out fairly well.
Well, I think the guys that I hike with always wait for me, always look out for me, always checking in for me. That's been the story of our relationship for a long time. In fact, the whole hiking experience was put into my imagination by Don Carlson, who sensed that I was coming out of being sick after retiring, and he offered hiking as the centerpiece of what became my wellness program. So Don's always watching out for me. My brother-in-law does too. So when we finally got to that decision point where we saw people up to their necks in water, heard a story from a couple people that someone had gone underwater a moment before. We said, you know what? We've gotten an exceptional experience. We're really not out to prove anything. We're not going into any record books. Let's just enjoy what we've done and let's turn around and come back.
Mhm.
And the going back was just as spectacular, but now we had the experience of knowing how to do the river.
Mm.
So we felt probably with greater confidence we knew what we were doing, and it was a much shorter length of time to come back. And imagine when we got to the trailhead, there were 100 people entering the Narrows. And most of them were not
Mhm.
prepared, and most of them were shocked by what they were experiencing and probably
Uh,
turned around a few minutes later. So anyway, we had a great experience.
I'm seeing that in my mind's eye. I mean, I feel like I'd be one of those schlubby people going, "Where's my walking pole? I didn't get one. I can't do the thing."
There were people in flip-flops, and I'm not putting
Oh,
them down. They just
I
hadn't
would
spent any time
not do the
figuring it
flip.
out.
Yeah, I would not do the flip flops. I have enough sense to wear proper footwear, but I get what you mean. I get what you mean. I'd like to remark on that. The hiking and your wellness program, that actually seems to be working really fine, really wonderfully. I'm going to say you look like you're in better shape than I am, Bob.
Well,
He
it's
says that with
everything's
an accusatory stab.
No, no, no. I I hope I am no hero of this story. All I am is I've got thanks to Don's invitation, thanks to the help of some doctors, thanks to the support of lots of people. I mean, I'm part of a hiking community that regularly hikes locally in Southern California. And all of those people, have been very supportive to me as I go through the aches and pains of growing older. And we kind of we sort of modify what we're doing. But so I had to change my diet. I had to try to lose some weight. I need to lose some weight again.
Speaking of diet, oh, you can't see that on your side here. Why don't we set that up again? No, I don't have it up on the record here. I don't have my screen up here. Let's try that. All right, so Bob, you said you had to make a lot of changes to your diet. I mean, well, I've given it a go, but that looks too tasty to not consume with wild abandon. So, Bob, is it worth it to give up these lovely chicken enchiladas?
What they say. What they say is everything in moderation.
Everything. Well, if my enchiladas look like this, then usually I can pass that up. But when they get like this, Bob, come on. In my defense, that looks tasty, doesn't it?
I am not the role model for dieting, but I've tried to improve my diet. My wife is a great cook and has taught me the advantages of a balanced diet. But you have to remember, at the college, I would be going from one meeting to another meeting. I'm grabbing a burrito on the way. I'm drinking my fifth cup of coffee. I was not taking good care of myself. Now I have a little bit more time to address that.
Yeah, I'm feeling it. It is a thing that you do need to do. I am feeling its effects as not having done enough of it. But then again, I'm not sure many of us do. We do structure our lives where it makes taking care of ourselves a hard thing. There's no dollar amount that we can hand over to our landlord for taking care of ourselves. We're in late stage capitalism, where if you want to buy a new car these days, you have to have an income of over $100,000, let alone buying a house. Unless you want to go live off in Tucson, and even in Tucson, it's it's getting rough out there, Bob. It's getting rough out there. However, I'm actually rather hopeful that things will get a lot better. I'm excited about many things that are coming down the pike, and rather hopeful. I don't want to do any sort of like, hey, did you hear about this one thing right here? Because I'm sure next week it's going to become dated, and we don't want that in the episode. So.
I'm still an optimist. I still believe in people and sort of the innate goodness of people. I recently, Sandy and I adopted 2 rescue dogs, and it was just beautiful to see the commitment these people made to animals, of all things, right? And one dog's from Guatemala, one's from Mexico, and I just loved what they said, about we don't give up on these animals. In fact, if it doesn't work out for you, bring the animals back to us. And I think that notion of people coming together for a common purpose, that's still very much alive in the world. They don't get the headlines that at times are so upsetting to us, and there are clearly many things wrong in the world. But I really love when people get together on a project and there's humanity in that, because they're sharing a common vision. So there's still a lot of people doing those things, and I've met in my lifetime so many remarkable people that encourage me about humanity.
I'm glad. I'd like to aspire to be one of those people. I don't think I've gotten there quite yet, but I'll check in with you and along the way and make sure that you're kept informed of the entire process here. Thank you all again for joining me and Bob on Mostly Fictional Tales. If you like what we've done and you need to see us do more, then you can help out in a few different ways. Like, share, subscribe, and comment on this video. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but it pleases the YouTube algorithms, so please help out. But if you're a real difference maker, head over onto Patreon. The link is in the description below. I cannot make this show without you. Until then, I have been your host, Rathgar, and I remind you to be good, but if you cannot be good, don't be caught.